I'm Marta San Vicente, coordinator of CIMA, the Association of Women Filmmakers in Spain, and also coordinator of this event titled We Are the Plot Twist. But first, let me start with a little presentation routine that we've designed for this event, just to make it a bit more amusing, because all of the speakers of the summit will present themselves with a book or film created by a female or non-binary person. In my case, there is one particular work that shocked me, and is Margarita y el Lobo by Cecilia Bartolomé, a Spanish filmmaker from the 60s. Well, it's an honor for us in CIMA to be hosting this event on behalf of the Global Network for Equality in Film. This is a collaborative project that will be explained a bit more in a few minutes. This is the biggest online event we've ever organized. We had almost 600 people registered. We are talking about what's on screen, but also off screen. So it's fair to present briefly all the team that is behind this event. So please just present yourselves, like Sandra, Valentina, Pilar, our fantastic interpreters, Pilar and Isabel, and many, many other workers and friends behind the scenes. This is a very big event. As I said, it's the first big online event that we've done. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Guadalupe Balaguer, President of CIMA, who will be giving a short welcome speech. So go ahead, Guadalupe.
Many thanks, Marta, and thanks to all the team. Thank you, girls, for working so hard and for making this a reality. I want to also thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm super happy to be hosting this summit, this international summit. We are a lot of women working together, and I think that all of us, we need to be very proud to join all these moments and to collaborate together. Following the presentation routine, I'm going to let you know which is the film that most inspired me I think in my life, in my profession, my career, and in my professional life. It's Take My Eyes by Ciar Boyain. It's a film that has more than 20 years or 20 something, and if you didn't have to watch it, I truly recommend it. It's a super powerful film, and I invite you, all of you, to watch it. As I was saying, it's the first online summit organized by CIMA in the context of this global network, in this network of equality in film. And right now I'm going to explain a bit why we are here together, gathering online in this presentation. In March 2024, CIMA and other organizations presented at the United Nations headquarters in New York the idea of creating a global network for gender equality in film. In that room, there were other 30 organizations around the world. And 1 year later, in 2025, CIMA was awarded funding from the Spanish Ministry of Culture to further develop this global initiative. And we started leading the project along with other non-profit organizations that share our goals. We are lucky to have a government that supports women in film, and this is something that we nowadays find more and more uncommon. Since last summer, we have created a website so that people can get to know this project and search for a lot of useful resources like reports and studies. During these months, we have hosted regular online meetings with the teams and boards of the members that joined the network. And it's been truly inspiring for us to meet each other and share experiences. Today, I want to thank all the members that have contributed in some ways to this forum, because this summit that we are hosting today is a result of a huge collaboration effort. Many, many thanks to all of you. For those who don't know what we do at CIMA, we are the Association of Women Filmmakers in Spain. Today we bring together 1,400 across the film and audiovisual industry, including many professional areas, from directors and producers to DOP, actresses, composers, and researchers. Founded 20 years ago, now we are on the 20th anniversary of CIMA. CIMA is a leading force driving political and cultural change, ensuring equal presentation for women and underrepresented minorities in the audiovisual sector, both on and off the screen. Together, we demand an equal, diverse, and violence-free industry. We have several lines of work. Research is at the heart of our association. For over a decade, we have produced annual reports that expose structural inequalities and the economic gap affecting women-led projects. Advocacy and lobbying with public and private institutions is an essential part of our work, pushing for stronger equality measures and policy changes. Fight against sexual and gender-based violence in our industry is also a priority for us. Tomorrow, we will present our pioneering study, After the Silence. We develop mentorships programs to help women advance in their professional careers. We design cultural programs in festivals and venues to promote conversations and screenings with female filmmakers, and also work with the film archives to restore and digitalize works by women filmmakers, because the history of film needs to be written again with a feminist and intersectional perspective. Now we are going to share a short video from Pepa Blanes, a top authority on European cinema journalism and also a member of the board.
There is an idea we hear again and again when we talk about women and film. Everything has already been achieved. It is true that a lot has changed. That change is thanks to many women and to the effort of generation after generation. But if we look at the fact, the picture is very different. In Spain, only 1 in 4 films is directed by a woman, and films made by women usually have smaller budgets than those made by men. The higher the position, the fewer women there are. In directing, women are still underrepresented, the same with cinematography or music composition. Cinema is not just a place where stories are told. Like many cultural industries, it is also a system of power, and that power is still mostly male. And there is more. Many actresses and crew members experience sexual harassment on set. Their bodies are judged and criticized on red carpets. Many women producers and directors are constantly talked down to. They are treated as less important than their male colleagues, and false rumors still spread out them. When a woman succeeds, her talent is questioned. When a woman speaks up about harassment or abuse, she is attacked and discredited. We also need to remember something important. Progress can go backwards. An economic crisis, a change in priorities, or the removal of gender policies is enough to undo years of work. Equality in cinema does not move forward on its own. It has to be protected and defended. If most directors, writers, and producers are men, then the stories we see on the screen will mostly reflect their view of the world, and that makes our culture poorer.
Okay, after the video, the nice introduction by Pepa Blanes. Thank you, Guadalupe. Thank you, Thima. I'm so honored to be here today, opening this inspiring and amazing online summit from the Global Women's Network. Okay, I'm Alexia Muñoz-Ruiz. I'm a filmmaker based in Barcelona and a gender equality expert after 13 years working at the European Women's Audiovisual Network in the intersection of film and activism. On a very quick note about me, the film that really made a huge impact on me was watching on a big screen The Piano by Jane Campion. So I realized that women could also make amazing, extraordinary films and bring a new cinematic approach, a new subject. It really blew my mind when I was younger. So, okay, today Yeah, today we have this first discussion, who gets to make films from policy to practice. So it's like a recurring topic that we've been exploring for the latest years. We will explore today how both public and hopefully eventually private equality, diversity, and inclusion policies can help reshape the conditions of access to filmmaking behind the scenes and across the whole production project. So the idea behind our discussion today is to share knowledge, examples, ideas. We will have some facts and figures, of course, but we will mainly focus on the exchange and debate, perhaps to get some inspiration and some key ideas and trigger professional and policymakers to bring some change. We are bringing together voices from Africa, Latin America, Europe, and the conversation will focus on the central questions. Which measures, adapted to each local context, have proven most effective in advancing diversity, inclusion, and gender equality? Okay, I will introduce the three expert speakers we have today. In alphabetical order, from France, Fabienne Silvestre, co-founder and director of Le Lab Femme de Cinéma.
Hello.
Fabienne, let us know the film and book that had an impact on you.
Yes, sure. Hello, everybody. The film I want to share is Delphine and Carole Insoumise. It's a documentary, a French documentary. It's the story about two amazing women, Delphine Seyrig, the famous actress, and also Carole Rossopoulos, who was a video artist. And it's a real mix of humor, of sisterhood, and also of activism. And for me, it's really, you know, the perfect example that we need to, I mean, the camera is really a tool for resistance, and it matters so much currently. That's it.
It did indeed. Thank you. We have from Brazil, Liara Oliveira, Vice President of Mais Mulheres. Hello, Liara.
Hi,
Let us know
hello,
the film.
everyone. Yes, hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, with such a wonderful women. So the film that I can answer this question with honesty, but because I don't. It's a lot of films that are very important to me, but I would like to share with you today the film Helena. It's a documentary from the director Petra Costa. Petra is she's young, but she's a great cinematographer. She's a great writer, and it's a story. It's her first film, and she tells the story about her sister who committed suicide. But it's a beautiful film, and for me it was special because it's a young woman telling the very intimate story of another woman that is important for her and for the family. And she also makes this picture of a generation, so it's so beautiful, and it's so poetical, and it's almost a piece of video art as well, because I just love video art. So I think this is one of the most beautiful documentaries that we have seen in Brazil for the last years.
Thank you very much, Liara, for your suggestion. And from South Africa, we have Sanele Mthembu, Acting Executive Officer of Sister, working in film and TV, and Managing Director of Rome Panther Film. Hello, Sanele.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Very exciting forum. And to answer the question is, I think I'm torn between two films, and neither of the films, by the way, is directed by a woman. I think that says a lot about the context that we come from until very recent history. But I've chosen, the one film is by Usman Simben, which is Black Girl, and the other one is Neria from Zimbabwe. And I think I'll go with Neria because it's closer to home. It's in Southern Africa. And the writer is Itsitsi Tangaremba, a prolific writer herself, an activist. So the film really talks about a woman fighting for her rights after her husband dies. You know, she's got to fight patriarchy, and a very representative and very authentic to our context. And so that film really made an impression on me about how we can tell stories that are authentic to ourselves, written by a Black woman in this case. So yeah, it made quite an impression, particularly because it took me going to America to actually discover this film, because a lot of African films were unfortunately banned in South Africa. So yeah, it made quite an impression on me.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, the structure of this first panel will be, the three experts will have a dedicated space to really go deep on, not very deep in 10 minutes, but sort of about what they do. Then we have some shared conversation, and then we'll have a Q&A. So please write your questions on the chat, and then we'll read a selection of them, or if there are not many, most of them, at the end of the talk. Also, the summit has been made with lots of love and imagination, and expect more interaction, more fun capsules that you will have to write some fun questions for general amusement. So then I leave the floor, I think everything is here. So I leave the floor to Fabienne Silvestre from Le Lab Fin de Cinema. Thank you, Fabienne.
Thank you very much, Alexia. First of all, a huge thank to you, CIMA, and the Equality of in Films Network for making this conference happen. A special thanks to Marta, San Vicente, and Sandra Resgar for the organization, and to you, Alexia, for this moderation. As far as I know, this is the first time we have ever had this conversation about gender parity in film with such an international scope. So this is a big moment, really. And it couldn't come at a better time, because we are living through a period of real backlash against everything we stand for. Which is precisely why I think this kind of initiative is not just useful, it's essential. Because we know it, we are only stronger together, and we also know that good ideas don't have borders. I'm truly delighted to be sharing this panel with such brilliant speakers, and I cannot wait to hear what's happening in their countries and regions. For my part, I'll be focusing on gender parity in the European cinema, a continent with many initiatives and some of the most encouraging numbers in the world. And yet, even here, progress is still much too slow. Everything I'll share with you today comes from the 2025 study by the Lab Femme de Cinéma, a study that is actually turning 10 years this year. So it feels like the perfect moment to look back honestly and ask then 10 years afterward of policies, did they actually work? In this slide, you can see that at film school graduation, 1 in 2 students is a woman. Then comes the first short film, and suddenly we are down the 1 to 1 in 3. And then for the first or second feature, it's 1 in 4. And by the third film and beyond, it's 1 in 6. So what we are witnessing is a kind of slow evaporation. Women don't disappear overnight. They are gradually pushed out at every single step of their career. Not because, of course, of a lack of talent, but because of an excess of discrimination. At the lab, we always say we have to count women for women to count. So let's count, and we can move the slide. At the European level, women directed an average of 25% of film in 2024. And we have to compare this figure to 2015. The percentage was 19% at that time. So yes, the progress is real, but it is also very, very slow. And it's not even a straight line. Some years actually went backwards. It was the case in 2018, also 22 and 24. Space, and I really want you to hear this. Parity in Europe will not happen until 2066. So I hope you will join me in preparing our great grandchildren for the good news. Parity is coming to Europe. Now let's look at how this breaks down across a few European countries. I think you have to change the slides. So Austria leads the way with 36% of films directed by women. And as we will see in a moment, that's no accident. France comes in at 27%, just above the EU average of 25%. Spain is just below at 24%, then Italy at 18%. It's not the lowest in Europe, but it's a major market and still well below the European average. And Romania with 17% as the lowest share of female directors in our selection. The pattern here is pretty clear. The countries with the best numbers are the ones with the most ambitious policies. No surprise there. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Even the best performers are still very far from parity. Even Austria, the European leader, is at 36%, so very far from 50%, of course. One more set of figures, the slide afterwards. And this one also tells a story. If you can change the slide, please. In documentary, 33% of films are directed by women. The best rate we have, but honestly, it's hard to celebrate because in fiction and animation, as you can see, that figure drops to 21%. Why such a gap? The answer is very simple: money. In France, films directed by women have budgets that are on average 39% lower than those directed by men. And we all know what that means. Less money, means fewer opportunities. Fewer opportunities mean shorter careers and ultimately different films. So after 10 years of research, what are the measures that have actually moved the needle? 3 stand out, and you can move the slide, please. So first, it's financial incentive. Bonuses, quotas, dedicated funding calls for women. When you change the money, of course, you change the films. Second, fighting gender-based and sexual violence on sets. Because let's be clear, a safe set is not a nice to have. It is a prerequisite for everything else. An equal set is a safe set, and a safe set is an equal set. Third, supporting parents, because the data is crystal clear. Having children penalizes women in the workplace far more than men. Helping parents means creating equal conditions for everyone to create. So first, and you can move the slide, please, let's start with the financial incentives. So in Europe, 9 countries have introduced quotas and 6 countries have introduced bonuses. You can change the slide, please. So let's start with Spain on quotas. Spain remains the only country to have adopted real quotas, which means systematically dedicating part of its public budget to projects led by women directors or screenwriters. Others have gone for what we call moderated or hybrid quotas, but Spain set the bar. Now, Austria. Austria is the best example of financial measures that actually work, and it's now the top-ranking country in Europe. The Austrian Film Institute uses 2 main tools. First, the gender incentive. So a 30,000 euros bonus tied to the presence of women in key roles across 17 departments, from directing to sound. The results speak for themselves. Plus 10.5% women in production, plus 7.2% in directing, and plus 6.5% in screenwriting. So those are real shifts. Second, hybrid quotas. It means mandatory but flexible. Introduced in 2021 with a progressive ramp-up. 35% minimum for women's projects in 2022, 40% in 23, and a target of 50% in 24. And with no automatic penalty if the target isn't met, just a case-by-case review. What are 2024 results? They are very encouraging. 52% of women in script development, 43% in project development, and 44% in production. And now there's the French example. In France, the CNC introduced a 15% parity bonus to work together with the collective 50-50 for production and with at least as many women as men in key roles. We covered 12% of films in 2019, a quarter in 2020, and a third from 21 onwards. Real progress. But here's the twist. The CNC itself concluded last year that positive incentives alone haven't been enough. So as of January 27, that bonus becomes a penalty. Films that fail to meet parity standards will now be financially penalized. And as far as we know, as far as I know, this is a world premiere. No other country has gone this far. We'll hear more about the exact modalities during Cannes, so let's stay tuned on that issue. The second kind of measures that...
Fabienne, sorry, you will have to wrap up, let's say 30 seconds, 1 minute.
Okay, so what I can say is the two other kind of measures that work are the one to fight against gender-based and sexual violence. I will answer your question if you have any. And the last ones are the ones supporting parenthood. And perhaps I cannot only say that the Austrian Film Institute support, again, are the best place to support parents. Well, so to wrap up, okay, I go to my conclusion, Alexia. Europe probably tracks parity figures more closely than anywhere else in the world. And the numbers here are the strongest too. That's true, and we should own it. But when we look more carefully, what do we actually see? Creative, wide-ranging, long-term policies that even in the most culturally progressive countries cannot push the share of women directed beyond 36%, not 50, 36%. So yes, the picture for gender parity in European cinema is no more cheerful than anywhere else in the world. But here's what I want to leave with you. The fight is long, it's frustrating, and that's exactly why it's more necessary than ever. So let's keep standing together across border, across continent, across industry, because it's not just about cinema, it's about creativity, it's about cultural democracy. As long as women are underrepresented, and that has been said in introduction, the camera in Europe, in the world, will miss an entire world of imagination. So thank you, Sima, and let's continue this discussion.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity again to be part of this very important conversation. And just listening to Fabienne right now, talking about what is happening in Europe, it almost feels like I'm going to be repeating the same thing, because we definitely as women are impacted by the same issues in Europe, and these issues are kind of very common and universal to us as women. I think I'm going to share my screen because I'm not able to move. Just to start off and introduce you to who Swift is. Sisters Working in Film and Television was started in 2016, we will be celebrating our 2017, officially, we'll be celebrating 10 years next year. And we came together because of common interests and challenges that we're facing as women in the South African film and television landscape. We then conducted research in 2018 that would inform the type of work that we would then focus on, what would be our priorities as an organization. And out of that came our commitment to advancing the role and influence of women in the South African film and television industry. In a nutshell, how we often put it in a very simple way, and I suppose a way that a lot of people can remember, is that we are women who want our voices to be heard, and that's our advocacy. And we want our stories to be told and for us to be seen and represented on the screen in a positive manner. And that speaks to sisterhood cinema, which is a leg of what we do to showcase and focus on work that is created by women, and also in terms of how we are portrayed in film. The last part of it is we want our talent to be recognized, and that speaks to building the capacity of women. And in the South African film, specifically, landscape, because we haven't really seen that in a very long time. We're beginning to see some changes now, but for us to occupy and take up our rightful place, we need to have the capacity, the skills, technical skills in TV and film, behind the camera, particularly in cinematography, directing, and editing, and in all those fields. So that's why we are committed to really seeing the advancement of the role and influence of women in TV and film. And lastly, and most importantly, is creating safe and respectful work environments in South Africa. We are a collective of women across race, gender, age, and experience. We are indeed practitioners that happen to be women. In our work, we certainly, in the South African context, recognize the intersectionality of our experience, that, you know, in spite of us having challenges of representation, we still have women, Black women in particular, and Black in the South African context, by the way, includes Indian and colored women, is representation of those women. So we do advocate a lot for that transformation. We are in 4 of the 9 provinces in South Africa, and we are certainly focused on challenging gender inequality in all its facets in our industry. Just to give you a bit of background in the landscape of Africa as a whole when it comes to film, and I will quote from the UNESCO report in 2023, that many aspects of the film and audiovisual industries in Africa remain informal. 44% of countries have a film commission, 44%. So we're talking about 23, and 55% have policies that govern TV and film production. So we are still very much in infancy stages in terms of formalizing our industry. And the biggest challenges really include education and training, internet connectivity, of course, gender equality or inequality, freedom of expression, and the preservation of our archives. The challenges that we're seeing that are persisting across the continent is that in Central Africa, the observation is that a percentage of women in the sector is less than 10%. So of the people that responded, 98% of the practitioners, they estimate that only 10% of women are actually represented in TV and film. In East and Western Africa, of 50% of the practitioners estimated that the percentage of women in the sector falls below 10%. So this really speaks to the work that still needs to be done. And the major challenges that face women, African women, is lack of ownership, lack of strong women narratives in film and film roles specifically. I mean, I mentioned when we started that the film that really had an impact on my life, that was in 1991, wasn't directed by a woman. Even in 2026, we're not seeing that many films directed, particularly feature films. We'll see women in documentaries, but not so much in feature films. We have limited access to financial resources. We'll look later on at where are some of the changes that are taking place in some of the countries that have policy and the policy that is driving the change. We have stereotypes that are limiting creative expression. Again, we're relegated to roles in documentary filmmaking, TV and film production, and not so much in feature films. And so the themes that are usually directed by women are issues of polygamy, domestic abuse, female genital mutilation, and so on. And that is from the UNESCO report in 2014. And that picture hasn't changed much in the over 12 years now. Work and family balance, there's very little protection for women. If you get pregnant, you more or less are out of the industry unless you have really good support. So there's no policy that really protects us in that space. And definitely sexual harassment is a huge issue. In South Africa, specifically gender-based violence has been recognized by our president as a national crisis, and sexual harassment forms part of that. So in terms of just the policies that are there in setting the stage, is looking at national film policies that exist. And I'll mention South Africa and Kenya here because we work closely with Kenya, is that we're seeing change in that space where there's implementation of national policies that is aimed at broadening the participation and support of local content, gender equality mandates where the policies are in place, but there's specific quotas that are specified by government in those policies to say, if we are funding this film, then so many women have to be employed in these positions. Regional collaboration and strategic partnerships, that is what has been helping us to really move ahead and to learn from each other as women on the continent. Examples of policy implementation. We're looking at targeted funding, ring fence specifically for women. The National Film and Video Foundation, which is an agency of government in South Africa, started the female filmmaker slate in 2013. We don't yet have the data to tell us exactly how many women have benefited. And this slate spoke to the quotas that I was talking about in terms of films that are female directed, cinematographers, and all of that. Kenya Film Commission also had a film empowerment program that was launched in 2020. The program is broad, however, there was funding that was targeted at women. Training and mentorship. Our organization, working together with other organizations, we look at training and mentorship. Also, the National Film and Video Foundation has specific funding towards skills development as well. Similar in Kenya. And I'm only mentioning these two countries because there is a dearth of data in terms of the other countries. But with the African Audiovisual and Cinema Commission, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more data come through in terms of what is happening. Advocacy and accountability. We have, as SWIFT, spearheaded a fight against sexual harassment in South Africa, really leveraging existing policy on the prevention and of discrimination in the workplace. The policy exists, but because we work in an informal environment or where there is no legislation, there is no proper implementation. So as SWIFT, we are working to make sure that that policy is recognized and respected in the industry, and that we benefit as women from the protection of that policy by government. The lessons that we've learned.
You have to jump to a conclusion. You have 1 minute.
Okay, yes,
I know it's very short
the last
time.
part one slide. It's really looking at monitoring and evaluation of these policies, fostering cross-sector collaborations and global collaborations like what we're having here now is really the way forward in terms of, fighting inequality and ensuring that women are represented. And I'll jump to the last slide, that in closing, what is important for governments to remember is that how the industry moves forward and how things change really lies in its diversity, in its resilience and capacity for renewal. When women and marginalized creators are excluded from ownership, pay and access, we all lose. We lose diverse stories, we lose innovative ideas and the potential to build a creative economy that reflects the richness of our societies. And that's it. Policy is important to continue building a creative economy that is just, inclusive, and sustainable. I will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Of course, very precise words. I mean, we cannot forget or really not support women financial how women can really contribute to the financial growth, of course. Yeah, very, very, very accurate. Zanele, thank you very much.
Thank you, Zanele. Thank you. Now I'll be able to share, just because how English is not my first language. I need my appointment to
Perfect. We have it, Liara. We have it there. And don't worry, none of us, I mean, Zanele, yes, but not for us. It's, well, neither. Yeah. None of us is
so
you are in a safe space.
Okay. So I'd like to share, it's a great honor to be here with you. And now I'm going to share with you some appointments about these two institutions that we have here in Brazil. Of course, most of you should know that Brazil is it's a huge country and perhaps the most diverse country in the world. So I'll share with you some of my work that I've been doing. That, of course, it's not just for me, with me, it's with a lot of women here in Brazil. And I'm the former president of Cine, that it's a very important institution here in Brazil, in the city of São Paulo. I leave it Cine at 2025. And now I'm the vice president of Instituto Mais Mulheres. So I'd like to highlight some of the initiatives that we've been carried out in Brazil to expand the presence of women, professional and representative of other underrepresented groups. So I'm talking about some work that we've been doing here in Brazil, not just for women, but also for the subrepresented other underrepresented groups, such as Black women, Black people, Indigenous people, and trans people. When I speak about my time as president of Cine between 2021 and 2025, I'm really speaking about the consolidation of a commitment that began back in 2019 at Cine. Cine is Cine is the public company from the city of São Paulo to support the audiovisual sector, not just in the city, but of course, in the relations with the country and with other countries out of Brazil as well. It's supported by the City Hall of São Paulo, and it specifically works with the audiovisual sector. So, one thing that I would like to share with you is the policies that we have implemented at Cine. It started at 2019, as I said, but it grows through 2021 because we make it bigger. All the initiatives that would bring more women and Black people and transgender people and indigenous people to the audiovisual sector, because here in Brazil we have just this huge difference between white male and all the others peoples that work in the audiovisual sector, not just in audiovisual sector, of course, but as we are working with this small part of the society. So our starting point was 2029. Then the plan set clear goals to increase the participation of cis women, trans people, and Black professionals across the entire production chain. We began with an strategic steps in the low budget call in 2020, but it was in 2021 then we truly raised the bar. During this time, we moved from an isolated measures to a permanent transformation. We introduced affirmative actions mechanisms in every single call for proposals. So in Cine, we worked with the budget from the city of São Paulo, but we also worked with the financial resource from the federal government of Brazil. So we start to put in all our open calls for project for using this fund resource. We implement these affirmative points. So if you were a Black woman or an indigenous, you would have extra points to your project when you send us your project. So, and of course, we introduced it as well most diverse people that would look at the projects. That was very, very important. That it was a huge change when we started to call diverse people to look and to give the notes, go over the projects. It was a completely change. So, but I can see if we look back at this trajectory, we can see that diversity started as a goal, but we didn't achieve this goal yet. So it's a working process. We started at 2019 and increased at 2021. And it was very important to the public policy here in the city of São Paulo, but it was an example for other policies all over Brazil. So the impact was huge. Even the federal government looked at our actions here and started to work with in a different way with the diversity. So it had an impact that was really important here in Brazil. And so here is the date that I was telling you about, and how this consolidation started more at 2021 and becomes to over these days. And I would like to share with you, oh, no, it's just, sorry. I can't. Sorry, it's not all of this that I'm sharing. I'm just sharing the first because we don't have much time. So how we used to work with this affirmative issues? We established that we begin with 50% of all the projects that we received, and 50% should be the projects that would receive the funds, the resource. Should have or women or a Black person or indigenous or a trans person in the team, but not just in the team, in the position of make difference. So it should be the writer or the director or the producer. Here in Brazil, we have a lot of female producers, so it doesn't make much difference. But when we started to look at the writers and for directors, it changed a lot, because we almost didn't have women directing films of high budget here in Brazil. So writing solo or directing solo. So we use it to
You have 1 minute, Liara. Sorry, you have 1 minute to conclude.
Oh, just 1 minute. Okay, yeah. Okay. So, and the second thing, sure, I would like to share with you is about the Plus Women Institute, Instituto Mais Mulheres. That is a non-profit civil society organization. I was joined Plus Women 5 years ago, but now I'm the vice president of the institution. And it's an initiative that is really helpful, because we work with Brazil contest, in all of Brazil contests. And for this last 2 years, we've been doing such a lot of partnerships with other organizations like CIMA, or like the institutions, the BFI in London, or as well as the French 50/50 collective. So we've been working with this mobilization of professionals, women professionals, all over of course, not all over the world, but in the movies and audiovisual sector world. So we go to festivals, and we implement. We facilitate women from Brazil to go to festivals with their movies. We also have a lot of initiatives for education for young women here in Brazil as well. And this is getting bigger. So it started.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes, it started with just a few women here.
Good.
And now it's getting bigger and bigger, and now it's a formal organization, and it makes difference here in Brazil, because now we also can receive some funds from the federal government, and we intend to start it to our open calls as well. Of course, we will have to deal with a small budget for now, but we are working to get it bigger. So I think we can grow and make difference here in Brazil, and continues make difference.
Thank you very much, Liara. And thank you for explaining this wonderful initiative already started in 2019 from Cine, and the fact that it was understood the need of bringing diverse and inclusive committees and commissioner editors. Of course, that's the starting point. So we have short time for some conversation, but let's dive into that, ladies. Thank you very much for your input. So just to summarize a bit, the 50-50 by 2020 was a very common phrase coined by Anna Serner years ago, by 2020. Now we are heading for 50-50 by 2066, as Fabienne said. So is this parity and 50-50 speech still a useful framework, do you think, or is it may simplify deeper and complex inequalities? What do you think? Is in the different regions this parity and 50-50 speech still working? Sanele, for instance?
Yeah, I think the intention behind it is very much still applicable, because we do need to change the landscape. We do need to have parity, not just representation of women, but in terms of the positions that they occupy, you know, from film festivals, in terms of the decisions that are made regarding films that are screened, that are awarded, all the way through to the roles that women play in films. You know, I mean, Liara was talking about directing and producing as well as writing. Those still remain, particularly directing and writing, key areas where we need to see not just representation, but parity. How much authority do women have? Because we've seen in films that have been made, specifically here in South Africa, where women have been the writers and directors, how that changes the films. In fact, incidentally, one of the biggest grossing films in terms of box office was written by a woman, not directed by a woman, but was written by a woman. And it went on to make its money back. So that already speaks to the importance of ensuring that women are represented and have, you know, the authority to make decisions when it comes to film. So definitely the intention behind 50-50 is what we should still be pushing for, because we're not there yet.
A long road.
Very long.
Yeah. And if you would have to choose just one measure, one thing, one action that moved the needle most, what would you think it was? What do you think it was the thing that really worked better in order to move the situation to that parity? Feel free to chip in.
I think that, yes, I can perhaps try to answer that at European level. What we can see is that what, you know, really changed the things is the financial incentives. I mean, as soon as you've got some money that is involved, then you've got a power to make the thing change. And I think it's very interesting to note that in France, you know, the bonus that existed for 5 years is going to be transformed into a malus. I'm not very sure that it's an absolute good news, because I mean, we would all prefer to have some financial positive incentives instead of having some malus. But the thing is that as it doesn't, I mean, works well, and I mean, we have to change the things. And what I can perhaps, I just perhaps want to say just a word, because Cannes is coming, in a week. And it's very interesting to notice that in the competition, there will be only 23% of women directors. And in 2023 and 2024, it was almost 35%. So this is not a good evolution. But at a more generous scope, it's with all the sections of Cannes, it's about 35% of women directors. So we are not up to 50-50. But what we can also note is that, at the Semaine de la Critique, which is a special section in Cannes, and very surprisingly directed by a woman, Ava Cahen, for the last 3 years, we are almost at parity, in between men and women directors. So it's when I want to say that when we are looking for, even in festivals, for women talents, we can find them. So there's the issue of financial incentives, and also of the cultural move that we, all have to think about, I think.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Yes, Cannes numbers are not as good as Berlinale. The percentage of female directed films in Berlinale is slightly higher. I don't know if it has to do with having a female leadership in the festival and in the market for some time. So perhaps that change will come as well to Cannes. Now in Spain, we are celebrating because the new director of the San Sebastian Film Festival will be a woman who has been in the team for 10 years, I think. Yeah, there are many measures, many initiatives that could be done. And one of the good ones is exactly like Liara said, having parity at commissioning editors, bringing that diversity there. Yeah, indeed, that was really a good movement. So I would like to talk about the intersectionality gap. So gender equality data may mask some inequalities as well. So when we talk about women in film, are we talking about all women, or are race, class, disability, and geography perhaps still invisible in the conversation? Do you think that in organizations and film institutes are addressing these blind spot perhaps? Can you recommend some good practices of intersectionality? Well, Liara has already recommended some, but perhaps you can bring even more now. You have also extra time. You can perhaps share more good practices on intersectionality.
Yes, definitely, because we have all kinds of intersectionality. Oh my God! Here in Brazil. And of course, we have this huge Black population, but I can tell you, and I think it's a scandal, because I can say that right now at 2025, 26 in Brazil, from all over the history from the cinema, from making movies here in Brazil, we just have 5 female Black directors with films that made impact in cinemas. So just 5.
Yeah.
So it's a huge. It's far from parity. It's so far from what we understand that would be fair from our society. So, but the good news is that now we have a lot of young creators here in Brazil, and we have this Black women writing and directing a lot of short films and a lot of documentary films as well. And I think that the fact that we are supporting these young creators, these young realizatrices, I think that it will make difference in the future. It's already making difference. We can see, no? But actually, when we talk about the films with a high budget that go to the movie theaters, we still are very far from what we would like to.
Well, yeah, it happens everywhere. Yeah, we're very far from that, but it's very important to offer that opportunities to young and not young. I mean, because you can be an emerging filmmaker at any age. It's important, even though it was 5 films making impact. 5 is a starting point, because the important is that people, some young women, can see those films and think, oh, I can become a filmmaker as well. I can make change. I can bring change through my society with my films in the future. That's empowering. You are empowering younger generations.
Yes, definitely.
That's the right thing. I would like also to speak briefly about the resistance, because, I've been almost 20 years already in this activism, feminism, gender equality, and there's been a backlash and waves of backlash, and we are suffering one wave of backlash now, but also about the resistance. I've witnessed that. So change always rarely happens without some pushback. So what, in your opinion, is the most common form of resistance, the persistent structural barriers in our audiovisual sector that we encounter? Which are the barriers that really don't let us progress, from institutions, industry, or our own communities? How do you think which are the main barriers, and how can we navigate through them?
Yeah, if I may come in there, I mean, looking at what is happening here in South Africa specifically, is that the main barrier is around experience. It's always a pushback that women don't have the experience, which is actually quite strange, because any of the men that have experience is because they were given the opportunity in the first place. So when investors come in, and there's always that pushback to say, we need an experienced director, we need an experienced producer, in many ways that really kind of sidelines a lot of women that don't have the necessary experience yet, and no one is really willing to give them the opportunity. How else are they going to grow? How else are they going to gain the experience unless they are given the opportunity? So that resistance for me is a big problem that we need to find a way around it. South Africa doesn't produce that many films, but we are more a television, industry. We produce for television. So if we were to look at the experience that women have gained on television and use that to propel them to directing films, which is something that is already being done as a measure to say, you have directed so many TV projects, you now have the opportunity to move on, so that we counter that resistance. But the resistance has really been around women not having the necessary experience. So something has got to give there.
Yeah, I understand completely. How can you get experience if you are not given an opportunity? Yeah. So programs bridging that career step from TV to film. But yeah, it's about policy. Yeah, I've witnessed that too. Fabienne, any other idea about resistance?
Well, the feeling I've got is that in Europe, since the Me Too movement, we heard, the women fight, to have more responsibilities and to have an audiovisual and cinema sector more equal. And the thing is that since I'd say 1 or 2 years, there's this little music that we can hear, and some of the people say, oh, come on, ladies, we have, you now have enough, responsibilities, and the 50-50, we are so close and we cannot say anything any longer. It's this backlash movement. And so, well, to answer that, I think that in my point of view, and thanks to the fact, and thanks to the European Audiovisual Observatory, we've got figures, very, very, very precise figures. I think that the answer to that is to continue to say, well, I know, you're just fed up of listening to us, but the thing is that as long as the numbers and the figures are so low, you will have to continue to hear from us. I mean, and to, in France, we've got a sentence saying we have to put the church in the middle of the city. And it's that it really, to say that as long as we've got, we are not up to 25% of film director as an average, then we will have to continue to speak about it. And it's a way of resist. I mean, to speak about the figures and say, we've got a problem, so we have to address it. The problem is still here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we have to go on speaking and having online summits or or on-site summits like this one. Of course, it's the only thing we can do.
If I
Okay.
can add just something, I think that what we should try to do is to put some joy on that fight, because it's terrible to be the women always saying, well, we don't have enough responsibility and everything. We have to say, well, look at that, we are the creativity. I mean, you are missing a part of creativity, and this is just crazy. So it's even for you men, it's something that is that will be positive for you. So
Yeah, we cannot stop. We cannot stop the fight. Perhaps we can go back to Agnès Varda films, like the documentaries she did in the 60s and 70s, to have some inspiration to keep on fighting and not look angry. Well, we have to wrap, but I must talk about the gender pay gap, because if not, I will be angry. So just a final question about the pay gap. The gender pay gap in the European Union is 11.4%, with lots of disparities across countries, of course. And for top executives, the pay gap is 34%, and women make 20% of this group. In the cultural sector, our sector in the UA, the gap is 13.5. In Brazil, it's 20.9, when women are making 42% of the working force in the audiovisual sector in 2023. In South Africa, I've read it's between 25 and 35%. Do you envisage, I think with these numbers, we should go to the streets like the Icelandic women did in 1775 with these numbers. Do you envisage any initiative or street actions to raise more awareness about this injustice? Do you have any?
Yes, we are screening about this thing here in Brazil. Actually, now we are trying to pass a law here in Brazil that prohibits this gap that happens. But we certainly know that it would be difficult to get equality. But we are screening a lot about this subject here in Brazil. And I would just like to complement my that I shared with Fabiana, that this music that we hear a lot here in Brazil, that men saying that women are just claiming, but we need joy as well, because we need to fight to change the things, and to fight harder. I think maybe we thought that it was going, we had fight a lot and now it's going on, but we realize that there is no end for this fight. So
no, it's not. There's
no end for this fight. Yes, there's
I have shared on the chat some 3 papers on, like best practices and things that we can do on our daily life in order to close the gender pay gap. You can find it in the Eva Network website. But yeah, I think this is really our main fight, because we have to get equal pay sooner or later. In Spain, the budgets have been, the average budgets from a male directed film and a women directed film have closed, but still there is a 24% gap. Yeah, in the budget.
And it's 39% in France. 39. It's just crazy.
It's huge. It's huge.
However, in the last decade in Spain, the average budget for a female-directed film almost went double. From 2011, it was 900,000 euros to almost double in 2024 because of the policies, yes. But still, there's a 24% gap. It's inadmissible. We cannot go on like this. Okay, we are we are over time. So, but there's, I don't know, there will be this fan capsula, the new poll, or can I make this question to Fabienne? Because there's a question on the chat. Are these institutional policies that reward rather than impose a penalty more effective, in your opinion? You have that question for you.
Well, yes, I think, sure. As it will be, directed, how many women have directed a film? Sorry, do I have to answer this? I'm lost.
No, you don't have, we can't answer.
Okay, sorry, it's just to pop up on my screen. Well, yes, I think that the malus will definitely be more efficient, because, all the bonus, it was something that was an option. You were not... it was not compulsory to ask for the bonus, but as long as it becomes a malus, then it will regard and it will concern all the films. So yes, definitely, I think it will be more efficient. But it's true that it's something negative instead, as the bonus was something more positive. But perhaps the time has come that we come to measures that are more strong.
Let's see what the future
brings
to us. Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Liara, Sanelle, Fabienne. It's been a very short but intense conversation. I hope we can have another conversation longer next time.
Yeah, thank you, Alexia. It was amazing moderation.
Yes, it was a great moderation. Thank you for being here with Fabiana and Zanelli. And thank you for all the team from CIMA for this invitation and for this very important initiative. So
thank you so much.
Yeah,
and really a big thank you to the people that attended. And we're looking forward to more collaborations, cross-border collaborations in making this a reality. Yeah, absolutely.